What if the owner of a luxury brand walked into his own store, only to be treated like he didn't belong? That's exactly what happened to Andre, and the way he handled it left everyone speechless. Picture this. You step into a store, your own store, only to be met with cold stares as if you don't belong. That's exactly what happened to Andre, a highly successful black CEO, when he went undercover in his own luxury retail chain. What unfolded next left everyone stunned, and the store manager? He got the shock of his life. Before we dive into this eye-opening story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Andre Williams sat at his desk in his high-rise Atlanta office, eyes locked on an email that carried more weight than its few simple words suggested. His luxury brand, Vera Lux, was a household name, a beacon of elegance and elite service. Yet, troubling whispers had begun surfacing. Whispers that one of his flagship stores in Miami was turning away customers based on appearance. You're not fired. Not yet. Instead, you will personally greet every customer who walks through those doors, no matter what they look like. You will serve them with the respect they deserve. Greg swallowed hard, his face flushed. If you can't do that, you won't be working here anymore, Andre added, his voice calm but firm. And trust me, if you slip up, even once, I'll make sure you never have the chance to treat anyone like that again. The following weeks were a test, for Greg, for the entire store. With Andre keeping a close eye, the toxic culture began to unravel. The staff, once indifferent, started treating customers with genuine respect. Word of Greg's public humiliation spread, and slowly the store transformed. But Andre knew this wasn't just a one-store problem, so he made a decision. Company-wide diversity and inclusion training. Every manager, every employee. Zero tolerance for discrimination. And it worked. Customers who had once felt unwelcome began returning. Employees took pride in creating an environment where everyone was treated with dignity. Even Greg, once so smug, had changed. His once forced greetings became genuine, his actions no longer just a performance. Weeks later, Andre walked through the store again, dressed casually this time. But unlike before, there were no cold stares, no dismissive glances. The same associates who had once ignored him now greeted him with warmth. Even Greg, humbled by the experience, had learned his lesson. As Andre stepped out onto Ocean Drive, a thought crossed his mind. Respect wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity, and now, Vera Lux finally reflected that. Greg's posture had changed, less rigid, more open. His gaze no longer held the quiet judgment it once did. He had learned the hard way that assumptions were dangerous. But for Andre, fixing one store wasn't enough. The problem ran deeper, and he had an entire company to consider. Back in his Atlanta office, he wasted no time. Meetings were set. Discussions were had. His executive team gathered in the boardroom, some voices filled with concern, others with hope. This isn't just about policy changes, Andre said, standing at the head of the table. His voice was steady, his conviction unwavering. This isn't some checkbox training. This is a movement, a shift in culture. Every customer who walks into Vera Lux should feel valued, no matter who they are. That's what this is about. The weight of his words settled over the room. His team knew this wasn't just business for Andre. It was personal, and none of them wanted to be the one to stand in the way of his vision. From the corner of the table, Maya, his assistant, spoke up. Andre, what you're proposing is significant. But how do we make sure every store takes this seriously? Some locations already do well, but others, not so much. Andre nodded. Accountability. The managers can't just go through the motions. They have to believe in this. Frank, the head of operations, leaned forward. We could tie performance metrics to customer satisfaction scores. If a store's numbers drop because of bias, we address it immediately. Andre considered this. That's a start, but it needs to go deeper. We need to hear from employees too. Anonymous surveys, direct feedback. Not just from customers, but from the people on the ground. Maya chimed in again. And what about consequences? If a manager refuses to comply, how do we ensure follow-through? Andre's lips curled into a knowing smile. Greg Coleman is already learning that lesson, and he won't forget it any time soon. But yes, consequences will be clear. Any manager who can't uphold these values, they'll be replaced, no exceptions. The room fell silent. The message was clear. This wasn't optional. The following week, Andre flew to Houston. He had chosen this city for a reason. The Vera Lux store in Houston was among the top-performing locations in sales, but it had also received the highest number of complaints about discriminatory behavior. Stepping inside, Andre took in the familiar sight: polished marble floors, gleaming glass displays, the air thick with the scent of luxury. But something about the atmosphere felt off. Something about the Houston store felt off. It wasn't as unwelcoming as Miami had been, but there was an undeniable tension in the air. The staff were polite, just enough to get by. But there was a distance in their interactions, as if they were moving through the motions rather than genuinely engaging. Andre greeted Carl Jenkins, the store's manager. A middle-aged man with nearly a decade at Vera Lux, Carl prided himself on efficiency. His numbers were always solid, but Andre had seen the reports: customer complaints, employee concerns. The issues ran deeper than sales figures. Carl shook his hand firmly, a wide but slightly strained smile on his face. "Mr. Williams, it's an honor to have you here. We've been looking forward to your visit." Andre nodded. "I appreciate that, Carl. I'm here to discuss the new program. I assume you're familiar with it." Carl's smile flickered. "Yes, of course. I've briefed the team, and we're ready to implement whatever is needed." Andre held his gaze. "That's good to hear. But let me be clear. This isn't just about rolling out a program. It's about shifting how we think, how we treat people, customers and employees alike." Carl shifted slightly, hands clasped in front of him. "Absolutely, Mr. Williams. We've always been committed to inclusivity." "Then I want to see that in action," Andre replied smoothly. "I've read the reports, Carl. People don't feel welcome here. That's not what Vera Lux stands for." Carl opened his mouth to respond, but Andre continued before he could. "This isn't just about fixing problems. It's about ensuring that every customer feels valued. That's what I expect, and that's what I'm here to enforce." Carl nodded, though hesitation lingered in his eyes. "Of course, Mr. Williams. We'll make sure everything is in place." In the weeks that followed, Andre made it a priority to visit stores across the country, from Seattle to Dallas, observing customer interactions and ensuring that the new standards weren't just being implemented, but embraced. The more stores he visited, the more he realized the challenge wasn't just about training. It was about dismantling years of ingrained biases that had gone unchallenged for too long. Back in Atlanta, Andre sat in his office reviewing the latest reports on the Diversity and Inclusion program. The results were promising. Customer satisfaction was up, employees felt more empowered, and complaints were decreasing. But he knew the work wasn't done. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Maya stepped in, a stack of papers in her hand. "Andre, you're going to want to see this." He gestured for her to come in. "What is it?" She handed him the reports. "It's from the Miami store. Customer complaints have dropped by nearly 50%. But here's the interesting part. Greg Coleman has been sending in regular updates on his progress." Andre raised an eyebrow. "Greg? Sending updates?" Maya nodded. "From what I hear, he's changed. He's taking the program seriously, personally training new staff, making sure they understand the values we're instilling. A faint smile crossed Andre's lips. Looks like he learned his lesson, Maya chuckled. It seems so. And it's spreading. The rest of the staff has followed his lead. The Miami store's culture is completely different now. When Andre returned to Miami, the transformation was undeniable. The moment he stepped through the doors, the staff greeted him warmly, not out of obligation, but with genuine enthusiasm. Greg approached, his demeanor respectful, a far cry from the arrogant manager Andre had met weeks before. "Mr. Williams," Greg said, extending a hand, "it's good to see you again." Andre shook it, noting the sincerity in his eyes. "Good to be back. I hear things are going well here." Greg nodded. "They are. It wasn't easy at first, but I've learned a lot. I understand now. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the people, the customers, the staff. Everyone deserves respect." Andre felt a sense of pride swell in his chest. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear." As he walked through the store, watching the interactions between staff and customers of all backgrounds, he saw the progress firsthand. The journey had been long, and there was still work to be done, but the message was clear. Prejudice had no place at Verilux. The brand wasn't just about luxury. It was about inclusion, about breaking barriers. And now it reflected those values in every interaction, in every store. Weeks passed, and Andre's vision took root across the company. Store by store, employees embraced the shift toward respect and inclusion. But Andre wasn't naive. Change required vigilance. It needed leadership. Which is why, on a foggy afternoon in San Francisco, he walked into one of Verilux's busiest locations, Market Street. The store was pristine, its displays immaculate. Evelyn Harper, the store's manager, was known for her relentless focus on efficiency. Sales numbers were high, but feedback from employees told a different story, one of pressure, rigid expectations, and a lack of warmth. Andre approached the jewelry counter where a young associate carefully arranged diamond bracelets. She smiled politely, but didn't offer assistance until he spoke. "Excuse me," Andre said, gesturing toward the watches under the glass. "Could you tell me about this collection?" She hesitated, stealing a glance over her shoulder before answering. "Of course, sir," she said, her voice hushed. "These are from our latest line. They're all handcrafted and—" Her words trailed off. Andre followed her gaze. Evelyn was watching from across the store. She wasn't approaching, but she was observing, closely. Andre turned back to the associate. "Is there a problem?" he asked gently. She shook her head quickly. No, it's fine. She hesitated. "I just want to make sure I don't mess anything up." Andre didn't miss the weight in her words. Something was wrong here. He thanked her and continued through the store, taking in the strained atmosphere. The staff were polite, but distant. There was no warmth, no natural engagement. They weren't focused on the customers. They were focused on not making a mistake. Andre decided it was time to speak with Evelyn directly. "Good afternoon," he said as he approached her. Evelyn greeted him with a stiff smile, her posture straight as a rod. "Mr. Williams, it's an honor to have you here." "We weren't expecting you," Andre chuckled lightly. "That's how I prefer it. I like to see how things run when no one's anticipating a visit." Evelyn nodded, though she didn't relax. "Everything is running smoothly. We've been performing above targets." Andre met her gaze. Numbers weren't everything, and from what he was seeing, this store had a different kind of problem. For the past 6 months, Andre had been paying close attention. While the store's performance remained strong, he couldn't ignore what he was hearing from employees. There was too much pressure, and it showed. Evelyn's confident smile wavered slightly. "This is a high-performing store, Mr. Williams. Pressure is part of the job. Andre met her gaze, his tone steady. I understand that. But what matters to me is how that pressure impacts the way people are treated, both your staff and our customers. Evelyn hesitated. She knew her sales numbers were solid, but that wasn't why Andre was here. I want every employee here to feel valued, not just like they're avoiding mistakes, he continued. You have a skilled team, but they seem more worried about doing something wrong than focused on providing a great experience. Her posture stiffened. I run a tight operation, Mr. Williams. We don't tolerate errors. That's how we maintain our reputation. Andre exhaled slowly, choosing his words carefully. I respect efficiency, Evelyn, but there has to be balance. Preventing mistakes is important, but so is creating an environment where employees feel comfortable contributing. She pressed her lips together, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation. After a brief pause, she nodded. I'll take your feedback into consideration. Andre nodded in return. He knew change wouldn't come overnight. He'd have to follow up, watch closely, and make sure the store culture truly evolved. Back at headquarters in Atlanta, Andre convened his executive team. While they discussed the continued rollout of the diversity and inclusion programs, he raised a deeper concern. There's another issue we need to address, he said. In some of our stores, it's not just about discrimination. It's about a culture of fear. Employees are too scared to make mistakes, and it's affecting how they interact with customers. Frank, the head of operations, frowned. Are you saying this is a management problem? In part, Andre replied. Managers like Evelyn in San Francisco are so focused on the numbers that they've lost sight of the human side of our business. We're not just selling luxury items, we're selling an experience. And that experience should make people feel welcome, not intimidated. Maya, his assistant, chimed in. Maybe we should incorporate leadership training into the diversity program, something that focuses on emotional intelligence and leading with empathy. Andre nodded. Exactly. It's not just about meeting sales targets. It's about creating an environment where employees thrive and customers feel valued. The team agreed, and soon, leadership training became a key part of the company's broader transformation. Months later, Andre returned to the San Francisco store to see if the changes had taken root. From the moment he walked in, he noticed a difference. The same young associate who had once been nervous now greeted him with a warm, confident smile. The tension that had once clouded the store was gone. Staff moved with ease, engaging customers with genuine enthusiasm. When Andre approached Evelyn, her demeanor was noticeably different. She greeted him with a genuine smile. Her once rigid posture relaxed. Mr. Williams, welcome back, she said. Things have been going much smoother lately, Andre nodded. I can see that. How's the leadership training working for you? Evelyn hesitated, then admitted, honestly, it's been eye-opening. I didn't realize how much I was focusing on the wrong things. I assumed that if our numbers were good, everything else would follow. But I've come to understand that it's not just about the bottom line. Andre smiled. It's about people. She nodded. Exactly. I've been working on building trust with my team, and I think it's starting to show. Andre could see the shift in her. The once rigid, numbers-driven manager was now someone learning to lead with empathy. It was proof that real change was possible, even in those who seemed the most set in their ways. By the end of the year, Verilux had undergone a transformation that went beyond sales and profits. Diversity and the complaints didn't outright mention race, but Andre knew. He always knew. Growing up in Memphis, he'd faced those silent judgments firsthand. The wary glances, the assumptions, the doors closed before he even knocked. Now, as the CEO of a luxury empire, he had believed those days were behind him. But were they? If the rumors were true, Greg Coleman, the store's manager, had to be held accountable. but Andre needed to witness it himself. He exhaled slowly, pressing his fingers to his lips before picking up his phone. "Maya, clear my schedule for tomorrow," he said, his voice calm yet unwavering. "I'm flying to Miami." The next morning, the sun blazed down on Ocean Drive as Andre stood outside the Vera Lux store. His reflection stared back at him from the glass storefront, but he hardly looked like the CEO of a multi-million-dollar empire. No tailored suit, no signature Rolex, just worn jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low over his brow. Today, he was just another customer. As he stepped inside, cool air greeted him, mingling with the scent of expensive cologne. The marble floors gleamed, designer handbags sat perfectly arranged, and sales associates bustled about, catering to the high-end clientele. But something felt off. Andre moved slowly, scanning the room. A well-dressed couple was receiving VIP treatment, enthusiastic smiles, eager assistance. But as he drifted toward a display of leather bags, something happened that confirmed his worst fears. Andre noticed it immediately. No greetings, no eye contact, not from the sales associates, not even from the security guard by the door. It was as if he were invisible. He reached for a sleek leather bag, one of his own designs, timeless, elegant, crafted with care. As he ran his fingers over the smooth surface, his gaze drifted across the store. And that's when he saw him, Greg Coleman, standing near the back, sharply dressed in a tailored suit. Their eyes met, and Greg's expression hardened in an instant. "Here we go," Andre thought, bracing himself. Greg approached, each step slow and deliberate. When he finally reached Andre, there was no polite greeting, no welcoming smile, just a narrow-eyed glance at the bag in his hands. "Can I help you with something?" Greg's tone was clipped, dismissive. Andre met his gaze, keeping his voice even. "Just looking." Greg's lips pressed into a thin line. "Well, those bags are quite expensive." His words dripped with condescension. "Maybe you'd be more comfortable browsing over there." He nodded toward the back corner where the lower-priced items sat. Andre's jaw tightened. There it was. The assumption. Greg hadn't even tried to hide it. To him, Andre was just another man off the street, someone who didn't belong among the luxury goods. "I think I'll stick with this one," Andre said, his voice steady. Greg folded his arms, his eyes flicking over Andre's worn jeans and plain t-shirt, his disdain unmistakable. "Are you sure? This isn't the kind of store where people just browse." Andre set the bag down carefully, keeping his expression unreadable. He had seen enough. "I'll let you know if I need help," he said simply, turning away. As he walked toward the door, he felt Greg's eyes on his back, heavy with judgment, the same weight he had carried all his life. The next morning, Andre returned to the Vera Lux store. But this time, the air was different. Dressed in a custom-tailored suit, his polished shoes clicking on the pavement, he stepped through the glass doors. The transformation was instant. The same associates who had ignored him the day before suddenly straightened, their eyes wide with recognition. Greg, once brimming with quiet arrogance, faltered. "Mr. Williams." Greg's voice was now laced with forced enthusiasm. "Welcome. I wasn't expecting you today." Andre smiled, but there was no warmth behind it. "I'm here to see how things are running," he said casually. "I had an interesting visit yesterday." Greg's face paled, but he recovered quickly. "I'm sorry to hear that, sir. If there were any issues, I'll personally make sure they're resolved." Andre didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took a slow look around. The sudden attentiveness, the eagerness to please. It was all an act. And Greg? He still didn't grasp the gravity of what had happened. Andre turned back to him. "I'll be honest with you, Greg. What I experienced yesterday wasn't just a minor issue. It was a pattern of disrespect based on assumptions." Greg's smile faltered, but he stayed silent. You assumed that because I wasn't dressed like your usual clientele, I didn't belong. You treated me differently based on what you saw on the surface. Greg opened his mouth to protest, but Andre raised a hand. I know what it's like to face those assumptions. I built this company to break that cycle, not to let it thrive in my own stores. The room was silent. The staff stood frozen, watching. Here's what's going to happen, Andre continued, his tone unwavering. Inclusion weren't just corporate buzzwords, they had become part of the company's DNA. Stores weren't just reacting to complaints, they were actively working to create an environment where everyone, employees and customers alike, felt valued. Andre knew the journey wasn't over. There would always be new challenges, new areas for improvement. But as he walked through the Veralux flagship store in Atlanta, watching employees engage warmly with customers from all backgrounds, he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. This was the vision he had fought for, a brand that stood for more than just luxury. Veralux had become a symbol of progress, a place where barriers were broken and respect was a core value. As he stepped outside, the sun setting over the city, Andre allowed himself a moment of peace. The work would continue, but for now, he could take pride in knowing that he had made a difference, not just in his company, but in the lives of the people who made it thrive.